Welcome to day 22. We ready to run? I assume we are. Media availability. We had a really good discussion about buildings on the floor, and we could talk more about it, but I'll probably stop there and open it up for questions, and we can come back if we need to. So, go ahead.
President, are you talking about tax reform in your caucus today?
I think we will today. We hadn't planned on it, but I think that's something that we've decided we will do. Okay.
And what about the minority caucus? Are you talking about that as well?
Yes, I'm waiting
Yes.
for more information.
Yeah.
But it's been already a discussion in our caucus, continuously on the list.
And you're saying we have a presentation today from Senator Fillmore?
Yeah.
Okay.
And he's going to present in our caucus also. Okay.
Did you say you hadn't planned on doing that?
We actually hadn't. I wouldn't know if he'd be ready, so we had a real full agenda, and we've had to move things around. And so we need Senator Vickers here, who's, I'm not sure what he's moved and what he's done, but we had some other things planned. So, okay.
Hate crimes?
Hate crimes was on the agenda. I don't know if it still is. Okay, but I think it probably is.
Do you see any progress from what we talked about on Friday with the caucus being split over that issue?
But we haven't talked since then, so I don't know. But I think there's always good discussion, and I really feel like we'll just see what happens. I don't want to speak for the caucus until I speak. Okay. But I do think we had the good discussion last week, and I think it's an issue that probably has some merit, obviously. Other questions? You don't want to talk about buildings? Got Senator Milner here. You want to talk about buildings, Senator Milner?
Yes, Senator, thank you. This is Michael Orton with the Capitol News Service. Help me catch up to speed here on how this relates to the fact that the state normally gives, like the University of Utah, some almost $500 million each year. And how is this bill now going to interact with the bill of bills and the way that that funding is apportioned and appropriated for entities like the University of Utah?
So normally we have, we fund through higher ed appropriations, ongoing programming for and operations on our campuses.
Jump in here, Robert.
That's really
Put you
the
front and center.
educational programming needs across our campuses. We have a separate process that we have used for capital projects, and that really has gone through IGG. And they evaluate those projects, and oftentimes we've used either one-time money to fund those projects. In some cases, we may have even bonded for projects. But what happens is they conceptualize their projects. They go through a process with the Board of Regents, and then from the Board of Regents on to the Building Board, and they get prioritized in the Building Board along with every other state project. So it's all of our USHE institutions, all of our tech colleges, and all of our agency needs. They prioritize, but it's based on these projections that we have. And then the legislature determines, working through IGG, they prioritize the projects in IGG, and then there's a determination made about what we can fund and whether we fund it with one time, whether we fund it with bonds, or sometimes we even use some ongoing, so we could do them over a couple of years. So this really, and what happens in that process is, the reality is, as an institution, you're probably going to get a project every 4, 5, 6 years. And as a result of that, it kind of encourages our institutions to build bigger projects versus to kind of look for that value-based project. Because you don't want to lose your place in line for a small remodel project, or maybe for adding a wing. You'd rather make sure you're trying to ask for everything you can anticipate needing over the next 5 or 6 years. And then we end up with very large projects, $50, $60, $70 million projects, versus being able to say, let's look at kind of incentivizing. If you want to do a big project, that's fine, but you're probably going to be saving up 5, 6, 7 years. As most of us kind of saved up for buying houses and doing things like that, right? On the other hand, maybe instead of going and buying that kind of leaving your house and building this big new house, maybe what you decide you could do is add a wing on your house, build a room onto your house, convert your garage on your house in order to be able to meet your needs because you stretch your dollars. So I think it would encourage stretching the dollars that they have, but also then being able to work more effectively with donors and others who bring private money, because they're going to be able then to say, here's our project, we have this much. If you could just close that gap for us, then we'd be able to fund this project. And no, the donor is kind of the last dollar in versus the way the process works now. They're kind of the first dollar in when it's just a hope for a project. And that's awkward. So I just believe we will stretch state dollars further, maximize the value we get for our investment because we encourage our institutions to do that.
We heard you.
Go ahead.
Just a quick follow-up, President. Thank you. We heard your handoff to Senator Hinkins and that analogy that he made, and your comment then about how this is going to work campus to campus in the state.
Right. So the idea of this is that there would be a formula that would determine how much money gets put in each of those institutional accounts every year. That would be based on kind of current enrollment year, so what you have projected enrollment, so what you expect to see in terms of growth in the next 5 to 10 years, but also based on age and of the facilities that you have on your campuses, because we have kind of a mix here. We have campuses that are, have been around for a long time, and because they've been around for a long time, they may have a lot of older buildings that at some point became renovated or torn down and new ones built. On the other hand, we've got some really fast-growing newer campuses that have lots of enrollment growth that we're going to have to be able to be responsive to. Demographics alone will drive that. If you look at most of our statistics here, most of our students go to school at a school in their kind of regional area. And so if we look at demographics and we look at where the growth is going to be in the state of Utah, we know Utah County is going to be an area that grows rapidly. We know that Washington County area is going to grow rapidly, et cetera. So this is meant to balance the needs of our campuses that are established and aging facilities combined with the projected enrollment growth that we're going to see, particularly on some of our campus where the population is going to grow the most rapidly.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions?
Senator Stevenson, any update on the 3-2 beer bill?
It's moving up the board. I think it's I don't know, it's 10 on the board right now. So probably next time we meet on Senate bills.
So we'll probably do House bills tomorrow, and let's see, Wednesday we'll do House bills tomorrow and Thursday. So we'll be back on the Senate calendar on Friday.
By the end of the week.
That tell you a little schedule there? Okay.
And you're planning to just run it as it passed committee, right? Or do you have amendments that you're...
No amendments.
Okay.
I have nothing. Just run it as it passed.
Okay. Other questions?
This is for both you gentlemen regarding school choice and charter schools. There is a link between legislators who are also involved in charter schools, and we wanted to ask how you make sure that there isn't some undue influence that you have over charter school bills and over those kinds of bills that come before you. How you make sure that you separate your involvement with charter schools with the legislation that ends up on the floor.
I think that's simple. It's how we separate everything. There's for me, there's another 103 other legislators. And it's with everything we do up here. So we have educators, we have in all way, shape, forms, and we have attorneys, we have pharmacists, we have nurses, we have everyone. So we deal with that every day up here.
Part of having a citizen legislature.
Yeah.
I think that with that we also bring experience and expertise. But we have the balance of the entire body reviewing every piece of legislation.
We have former university presidents that want to do things with higher ed. It's just the way it is up here.
I think if you look back, in fact, I was just thinking back when you said that, I've been in 14 or 15 traditional public schools in the last 6 months. I've been in one charter school. I don't know, I don't think I've ever ran a charter school bill. But I do believe that the charter system, the way it's working in the state right now, I think there's a level of competition there that really makes, it's like the rising tide. I think all the boats are moving up accordingly. So I really believe we've got a good system here right now. Charters, in most states where they peaked out, they'll peak out at like maybe 12% would be high. I don't think we're quite there in Utah yet.
We're about there.
Are we? So I don't know they'll go much higher than that. But we see a lot of movement back and forth. I think the choice is good for parents because you see a lot of kids move back and forth from charters to traditional public and vice versa. And we're not doing, I don't think there's very, very few charter high schools. And the one I am involved with is a charter high, but it's tied with a technical college up in Davis County.
So are there charter school bills, and which ones are there, so I can be aware? Okay.
Nothing right now.
Okay, there we go.
What about accountability? We've been doing a lot of stories where there's a question about accountability in charter schools. Do you think that there's enough accountability when it comes to charter schools?
I'd like more accountability in all schools. I'm a real advocate for performance-based anything, and for higher ed, I want to rate them on placements and graduation rates, and I think we need to have performance-based as much as we can. And some of that's not practical, but anything that's performance-based I think is good. I think that's what basically has made America great, is we've had competitive performance-based system throughout. I think hopefully what we've done in America, I think that's basically free markets, free enterprise. And I believe in free markets, limited government, that type of thing. Okay. So, other good questions. Those are good ones.
Executive appropriations, when are you guys planning to meet? We've got, I think, the last subcommittees tomorrow.
Got a calendar today. I don't see
It's
Mark
Thursday.
here. Thursday, yes, thank you. It'll be Thursday.
And I guess taxes and caucus today.
Taxes, maybe hate crimes, I think it is on. Anybody else remember anything on caucus?
Did the incident over the weekend, do you think that will shape the discussion today in any way?
It may, it can't help but have some impact. Something that I'll just say personally that wasn't very happy with. I mentioned it briefly before in the meeting. You see the you see Senator Kitchen, who is just a real great addition to the Senate. It really hurt me when I saw somebody take his flag down. I don't know all the details about it, but whether that raises to any level or not, but I think we're better than that as a community, and hopefully we're better than some of the things that we saw over the weekend, in our community. I hope that we all treat each other as appropriately as possible, and there's kind of a golden rule to treat people as you'd like to be treated, and I hope people kind of abide by that. So,
For the minority caucus, I think in Senator Kitchen, obviously as a member, being very active in this issue, we're just looking for that enhancement. I mean, that's what this is. It's really bringing a difference between a regular assault case, which, there's assault happening all the time, but when you see an assault that has a very direct message to a whole community, which is what we saw with the video. I mean, that case happening Saturday, waking up on Sunday, where you see someone clearly stating what his problem was to a whole community, beyond just the person that was just walking by. That's the enhancement I think that the hate crime legislation is asking for, so you can actually prosecute with that enhancement. We know we have assault charges already in place and people can get prosecuted for that. But in this case, it was terrorizing a group of people. And that's what we're looking for.
any other comments?
I have one that this will change the subject. I told somebody there would be no new revenue numbers until probably the end of the week. There will be some out in about an hour. And they do not
Wow.
look good. They're, I thought maybe we'd hold this, but it looks like we're flat right now. And so this should make the rest of the budget session a real thrill. I am really hopped up over this.
When you say flat, you mean on track of where they were from the December numbers?
The December numbers, remember we moved some money
Yeah.
in a couple of situations, but we're down probably what looks to be well over $300 million in tax collections. Now, they may come back in April. And the reason they may is the economy looks pretty good. It's just well, people have changed their habits on the way they pay their income tax caused by the tax situation, the federal deal last year. So they didn't pay and they haven't paid. They're holding their money and we won't know until the next filing date whether they'll bounce back. Optimistically and hopefully they will. But we won't know that until after the session, so we will have to budget accordingly.
October could even fill into that.
Yeah, it could.
Because
It could.
many extend October.
And there's folks that are making, a lot of people tried to get a tax deduction last year by paying their state income tax early. And that's, of course, didn't come to fruition. And so now we're looking at, well, I'm not gonna get my deduction, so I'm just gonna hang on to my money until the time to pay.
Well, December was a bad month on the market too.
December was a bad month in the market, so we will have some, my guess is there are a lot of requests for funds, a lot of bills have been filed that there will not be money to take care of. So that's just it. And I introduced myself as Dr. Doom.
I was going to say, you're so joyful, so, anyway.
So how
go
will
ahead.
those be announced? I'm sorry, if they're coming out in about an hour?
Oh, it's just the tax commissions will have I think it's a courtesy release to the leadership, to the legislature, and then it'll all be out to press. It's the tax commission's regular monthly report.
Right,
So-
but typically you do an update from the floor as budget chairman.
Well, we'll do
explaining
that,
what those
we will do that, but probably not today.
Our floor time's over for today,
That
but
was my
I'm sure, if I were after caucus, I'm sure Senator Stevenson would be very popular, so.
Yeah, I would, in fact, I just assume keep it quiet until after caucus.
Yeah,
I will-
not now.
I will meet with all the budget chairs. We have meetings scheduled this afternoon. We'll meet with the chairs. I'm sure everyone will be thrilled because they've all gone in. We left the budgets intact, remember? So everyone's working off of last year's budget. And then we had this estimate that we had $1.3 billion in new money, and it's not there.
So it's about $1 billion now in new money?
No. It's
Okay.
we spent $350 million for the prison. We cashed out, and so now we're down another 300. So we've got about half what the announcement was, which is
In
really
December.
probably a little less than last year.
So we gotta head to caucus, but you can, I think we'll probably end it there unless there's something really burning. So thank you
We can
again
just
for being
catch you
here.
after
Okay?
caucus then?
Thank you, President.
Thank you.
You can do that.
Would that be possible?
Yeah, it'll be fun.
Your
If
parking
he's
pass
still
only
alive.